Tell me about Emperor Hirohito. How do you feel about it?
Okay, Emperor Hirohito was, I mean, he was a goddamn
I have
puppet.
controversial opinions.
I mean, he was a puppet. Here's the thing about Hirohito.
Oh, we're going to fight.
Yeah, we probably will.
disagree.
No. Here's the thing. He was weak-willed as shit.
I disagree.
He was. No.
I agree with
He
him.
didn't, from every single documentation that comes out, he specifically did not want war. He did not want conflict. But once he signed up, once the whole military was into it, he basically it was the weakest position you could have of, well, fuck it, might as well ball.
I disagree.
What do you mean? Explain that.
I completely think that he was complicit in the militarization of Japan the entire time.
The military say, do you have any idea what was going on over the course of after the first Sino-Japanese War, heading into the period with Manchukuo?
Army, Navy competing, disobeying orders the entire time. I completely think that that's fabricated.
No.
100%. Have you ever read the book on it by Bix?
No.
He has an entire book basically saying that Hirohito orchestrated the entire thing and played it off like he didn't.
That everything afterwards would have been fabricated?
Yes.
Hear me out. I don't see that.
Hear me out. Look. Okay, so the entire argument is that he doesn't have power and he's a puppet of the Army and the Navy, right?
No, not that he is a puppet, is that he basically became that afterward. But because here's the thing.
That never happened in Japanese history.
Literally, that is the entire fucking thing for Japanese history. That is one of my big points.
Nobunaga is like, he was like, went to the daimyos and everything.
The entire point of the Japanese emperorship throughout all of history. Do you have any idea how little power? Do you know when the last time the emperor actually had real fucking power in Japan was?
Defined as what?
720 AD with the Nara period.
Not according to the Japanese constitution during World War II.
Yeah, for what is supposed to happen. What is supposed to happen doesn't actually mean it fucking does.
I'm listening.
I love this.
And who
This is good.
Who determines the documentation on what did happen? All of the people that would have sworn to defend the emperor?
From the same people that tried to fucking coup and like to keep the war going?
Right, but why would you coup a guy that didn't have any power in the first place? If he was just a puppet that had no power, why would you say, holy fuck, we gotta kill him to overthrow him?
Because if he makes a public announcement that's to the entirety of the people, that's the point.
So he's not powerless.
He is technically not. That's the thing. But legally, for what you'd be able to do, the amount of precedence that has to go into changing any single action within the government, it takes a lot more than that.
It sounds like he just needs to get on the radio and say what's up.
He needs to.
Exactly.
However, have you ever tried to get a Japanese person to say what it is that they actually fucking feel in a scenario instead of repressing it and holding it down?
So he was powerful.
Yes. And no, it's quantum fucking physics at this point with Hirohito.
It kind of sounds like you're just like, look.
Oh, I love this.
I already got the thumbnail in my sister, but I'm not gonna.
Fight.
That's what it sounds like. Like, could I win this fight? Absolutely. I'm just not going to because I'm an okay person. Well, I'm just saying, the final vote on whether or not Japan was going to surrender was cast by the only person that directly answered to Hirohito on the council. Hirohito decided to surrender.
Yes.
Okay. Hirohito also sanctioned the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Okay, yes.
Okay, that's my whole point. He's way more powerful than everybody plays him off to be.
He was literally the sun god.
I understand that,
Okay.
but it's not a matter. Okay, look, when we're talking about this, it's not saying that he was completely fucking powerless. That's never the point.
Okay.
It's just that people either think in terms of absolutes, that he was either the one who was directly in control of everything or the one who could absolutely do nothing but sit by as a helpless puppet. There is no arguing that he was not complicit in all the shit.
Okay.
That's the thing. The reason as to why he was let go in the first place was specifically because of a thing to save Japanese honor and also to make the occupation afterwards easier. That is the entire purpose as to why that was done and why he was spared.
Okay, we're close enough to being on the same page. Then.
Exactly. Otherwise, he would have been tried. Because here's the thing. Just because you may have been forced into something, if someone gave you a gun and held a gun to your head and said, hey, kill this person, and you killed them, you still fucking killed them. You still committed murder when you could have tried to do something to get out of that.
Oh, I don't even think it was that bad.
No,
I think it was complete. I don't think they put a gun to his head.
I'm giving it as an example.
Was
right,
the
no, for
Pope
sure. I'm just saying,
complicit
like-
in the Crusades? Like,
Actually, yes. Yeah, well, fuck yes. You kidding me with the first one? The Pope directly as
He really knows medieval.
I say this as a person.
Chase, zoom in on my face right
I
now.
say this as a person born and raised Catholic. All right. from the first pope to call a crusade, specifically the action done in an effort to strengthen relations and ties with French nobility and garner power around himself to secure his own position within Italy and also the power of the papacy.
You don't think he was countering Islamic influence across Europe?
He was!
Yeah.
Because guess what? Here's the thing. Here's the thing that bothers me with history that happens with a lot of people. It's not fucking black and white. No matter what anyone says in this here, it's multiple levels of grays that overlap. And so someone can do something for guess what? Guess what?
Oh, you're the best.
Multiple fucking reasons.
Yeah, man, I would say that's objectively good.
I get on the Hirohito argument because I always end up getting stuck on arguing with people on the internet about the atomic bombing of Japan. And the amount of misinformation that people fucking believe about that dumb shit. Like, the amount of people that believe that Japan tried to surrender beforehand and we said no just because we wanted to do it for funsies is fucking insane.
No. Because what they offered was not even a surrender. No. They offered a white peace, basically. That's not a surrender.
Do you guys want to stop and we're going to keep all of the government that just tried to take over the world completely intact?
And most of the land as well. Let's not forget that. It wasn't even just keep our current regime. It was basically, this is the guy in the middle of the boxing match, pressed up into a corner, arms broken in 3 different places, blood pouring out of an eye and going, I think we're in an equal position. You want to call it a draw? We can call it a draw.
Yeah. And Japan, again, was not a peaceful... This is a warrior society at this point. Like a warrior society, which the ideology, which I think Americans have a really hard time. It is like kamikaze suicide.
It was imperialist.
That is normal.
It was imperialist. Everybody likes to make that like synonymous with like Western European culture, but like Japan was 100% imperialist trying to take over the fucking planet.
And they were doing a fantastic job.
It was a hyper-militarized. It's almost what would happen if you combined, let's say that you combine Spanish colonialism with Prussian militarization. That is the closest thing that I could possibly associate with it, because their entire ideology behind it was, we want to be a member of the big boys, being the colonizers. They wanted to do that, but that was the whole idea behind the East Asian co-prosperity sphere, was that they were the biggest brother that was going to be taking care of all the little Asian brothers. And that was their point. So everyone else was going to be subservient. They were all going to be one big happy family, but we're the big fucking brother. And just so you know, if you mouth off to the big brother, you get popped.
You get very brutally popped.
Yeah,
and they controlled how much? They controlled the most.
Yeah, they controlled. If you go by geographical landmass and territory, it was. I think it's the biggest empire that's ever existed.
No, Mongolia.
Other than Mongolia,
so it's close.
I think the stat they're taking into consideration was like sea rights and shit too.
That doesn't.
That doesn't.
Granted,
because
like,
otherwise
look at all this land. It's ocean,
listen,
sir.
if you want to count the sea rights, the British Empire at its height would beat that fucking ass out by 1,000,000 miles.
Well, there was a giant sense of racial superiority too. I don't know if
that never went away.
Yes, there was.
That never went away either.
I know. I don't know if it came up. But yeah, the Japanese considered themselves racially superior to all the rest of the Asians who we were talking about. It's the big brother.
And it's the biggest brother. They were the ones who were on top.
The consensual sex of Nanking.
No, there's like this really funny short of, I don't know if he's like a Japanese historian or whatever, but he's like in the traditional Japanese like robe formal outfit. And it's like, it's the snippet of Joe Rogan on his podcast explaining that the Japanese were such this badass warrior culture that the Mongols showed up and the Japanese fucked them up and they left. And it just cuts to this Japanese like historian dude laughing hysterically. He's like, no, bro, it was a typhoon. It was
every time. Three typhoons.
Point of interdiction here. It was both.
Okay.
Because the fucking thing is, they did actually make landfall, and there were multiple battles on land.
Tsushima.
Here's the problem.
Tsushima.
Yes,
literally.
Tsushima. Not even just Tsushima. They landed on the mainland.
Mainland too. Yep.
And they did fight battles. Here's the fucking problem. So this is the whole thing when you actually look at Japanese history and the whole point with how the samurai were structured in the first place. So the samurai fought in almost the same way that the Mongols did at that time. They were horse archers. That's what they were. The whole sword is bullshit in the first place. Like the sword was never actually the common weapon.
It was
the
very
spear
rarely
and the bow.
It never
with the
is.
bow, no, with the bow being the number one, and that is what they utilize. It's why if you look at old samurai armor, they have these gigantic pads. Think of like a football pads on steroids, where they're just gigantic squares that are right here, and the whole purpose of that is to block arrows. While riding a horse, point back here, I have a giant square shield on my shoulder that's protecting my face. And that's the whole point. So they're fighting the Mongols with almost the same type of tactics against, it's honestly not Mongols at that point, it's mass Korean levies that have been forced into the battlefield by the Mongols, but they win. The problem is, the samurai government, almost immediately after this, fucking collapses from winning. Do you know why it collapses after they win? Because their entire society was based off winning not only honor, but money and land after winning a battle.
Yeah, it's like when your team wins a Super Bowl.
You don't get new land after winning a defensive battle. So what ends up happening is that all the samurai go, well, what the fuck did we fight and die for? We didn't get any new lands or anything. We get to loot some of the dead bodies, but that's it. And so they rebel against the government and take it over.
God, I love it. True.
Because they didn't get any land.
I got 4 skulls. They didn't bring gold here because you're not traveling with anything of merit. You're just coming to take everything.
Most
from
of the treasure and fleet and whatnot went down to the bottom of the fucking ocean from the typhoon. They didn't have anything worth taking.
And Mongols, I know you've done like different beats on it, which we will get into it because it's one of my favorite pieces of history. Like Mongols didn't give a fuck about like property or any of that shit. They were a roaming tribe. They're the steppe people.
At least in the beginning, yes.
Yeah. When it was Genghis, like Genghis was very big, and then the generations fucked that up. But when they went to Japan, it was just like, hey, conquer shit.
Time to kill.
That's why I care so much about the misunderstanding of the power that Hirohito had, because a lot of people don't. You're kind of looking at it as like Jeff Bezos is in control of Amazon, but also there's like 800 people below him making decisions that he never actually gets to see.
No. That's still associating too much. Here's the thing. What you're saying from my belief, it's too harsh and definitive of a stance. Here's the thing. Again, I say that he was a guy who ended up being used. He is not innocent in this. I have never made a statement that he is in that sense. In fact, he ended up getting away with a lot of the stuff that he was complicit in, allowed, or ordered otherwise that may or may not be able to be proven. The thing is, he did not have as much power to organize how things were done on the ground and for specific actions that led to as many war crimes. Because here's the thing. He can say, hey, I'm going to pull the trigger. And then after pulls the trigger, the fucking person controlling the bullet ends up splitting it off into 3 different directions and going after an orphanage. That's my point, is that the generals and those underneath were significantly worse than anything he ever had in mind.
It's like the idea of like, hey, yes, you can attack China, but then the repercussions of that.
Then they turn it into the competition of 100 heads.
Yes. Okay.
We're still close enough to being on the same page. I'm happy with it. Everybody plays it off like he was literally like. Everybody plays it off like he was fucking off in the corner playing with koi fish and had no clue what was going on whatsoever. Is my argument. That's what upsets me. Is when everybody was like, he was literally just like a halfway disabled kid playing with koi fish in his pond in his palace, and he didn't know anything.
No, he's a 5'2"
Okay, good. We're close enough to being on the same page. But that's why I care so much about like, no, he had way more power than you think, and he was complicit, and he's a big part of the reason that they didn't agree to surrender at Japan earlier, because the last stipulation before them surrendering, because they kept like lowering their expectations for surrender like 3 or 4 times, and then finally the last stipulation was, okay, well, you can't try the emperor for war crimes. And we're like, okay, fuck it, fine. And that was it. That was the surrender. So like, that's my whole point of like, well, if he was truly nothing all along, why the fuck would that even be on the table?
Spiritual importance. Again, it is actually a big thing, even if he was responsible for a lot more, is spiritual importance, because it was
mandatory that he made that speech for the people, because he was revered as a god.
A living god. That's the whole point.
A lot of Japanese citizens, a lot of Japanese citizens had never heard his voice. Like they dressed
no
up.
one did.
No one did. That was the first time it had ever been on radio ever. No one outside of the immediate government that was right there had ever heard his voice.
Blow his mind in a minute.
That is essentially like for America. It's like Jesus coming over the radio and be like,
it was literally
hey,
like,
we giving up, and everyone's like,
Well, I was gonna say,
he has a voice.
people knew the radio
Arigato
transmission was coming. They were dressed up like they were like the equivalent of going to church. Like people were.
Oh, so it was like
people
North
were
Korea.
dressed up like the formal occasion just to hear the emperor's voice over the radio. It was kind of crazy.
That's